Well, it looks like my hour's already wrapped up. Even before we gave the numbers, we had all the phone lines taken for Bart Ehrman. We'll get to your questions, your comments about Jesus Interrupted, revealing the hidden contradictions in the Bible and why we don't know about them next. On Coast to Coast AM, this is Ian Punnet. Bart Ehrman, professor at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, kind enough to give us as much time as he has on the new book, Jesus Interrupted. I hope it's another big seller like Misquoting Jesus, as you continue to challenge people of faith and also, I think, to enlighten them to see that this Bible is definitely worth studying. Andy is in Los Angeles on Coast to Coast AM for Bart Ehrman. Go ahead, Andy.
Yes, Bart. A great show, Ian.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have kind of a similar view that you have, Bart, except mine is slightly different. I don't understand if there is a God, and I really strongly believe there is. How could all this suffering take place, all these wars and terrible things around the world? But my question to you is twofold. Number one, you mentioned earlier that you lost your faith mainly because of the suffering that's going on, around the world. Now, my question is twofold. One, in your opinion, if this was a near-perfect world with little or no suffering, or very little, let's say science and technology, brought us a new world, would you say that, in your opinion, that you would then possibly accept upon faith the Bible and the Word of God? And two, I'm really, really curious. The way things are going now, in the world, it looks like things are coming to a head in the minds of many people. Now, you mentioned that the book of Revelations was referring to, in your opinion, many, many hundreds or thousands of years ago and not today. So if, by some chance, let's say the mark of the beast was given out and we had a world dictator, would you change your view about the Bible if it happened in our time?
Okay. Bart, where do you want to start?
Well, yeah, so, if the world was nearly a perfect place, I don't know what I would believe. It's hard to say. I think, though, that my main reason for disbelieving wouldn't be in effect. It's just hard for me to believe that in a world where a child starves to death every 5 seconds, which is what happens in our world, it's just hard for me to understand how there's a God who's in control of it. If massive starvation weren't happening, then probably I would look at the world differently. The other question is saying that, well, if the Antichrist does arise, will I believe then that the book of Revelation is referring to the future Antichrist? And I guess I just don't accept the premise, because the future Antichrist is not going to arise. The mark of the beast in the book of Revelation is actually talking about something that was going on in the Roman Empire. The number of the beast in Revelation is the number of a man, we're told. The number is 666. And scholars have long known that this is referring to the ancient practice of adding up the letters of a name or of a word, since in the ancient alphabets, a letter had a numerical value. And as it turns out, when you spell out the emperor who first persecuted the Christians, Emperor Nero, when you write his name in Hebrew letters, Kaiser Neron, and add up the value of each of the letters, it adds up to 666. And so probably this Antichrist was the first Roman emperor, the Emperor Nero.
There's some very interesting numerological work, too, that Bart Ehrman does in Jesus Interrupted. Let me push it back, though, to that question in a different form, though. He didn't say if there was a rise of an Antichrist, would you then believe in a future Antichrist? What he said was, if there were a dictator that was forcing, compliance around the world to this particular world dictator's point of view, would that make you be more inclined to think that the book of Revelation was being prophetic?
No, I don't think so, because, that's a likely occurrence with or without the book of Revelation. And so, when Hitler came on the scene, people were saying, see, this is the fulfillment. Or when Mussolini came on the scene, people said, this is the fulfillment. Some people have said that the Pope is the Antichrist. When I was in college, somebody said that Henry Kissinger, a person wrote a book saying Henry Kissinger was the Antichrist. So I think you can always find a fulfillment of the book of Revelation, and if there's a future dictator, people will surely say, see, this is a fulfillment. But, history goes on, and I think history is always going to go on.
Yeah, at the time of Martin Luther, he said the Pope was the Antichrist, and the Pope said Martin Luther was the Antichrist. They had you're the Antichrist. No, you're the Antichrist war going on. I thought that was interesting.
Exactly.
Kenny's in Florida on Coast to Coast AM for Dr. Bart Ehrman from University of North Carolina. Kenny?
Hey, guys, always a stimulating show, and what I appreciate about the show so much after listening for many years is the fact that it's a forum for honesty. And searching out truth is a good thing, just like one needs to get to know a lover. You have to really know something, you have to seek it out. Now, I do have a bone to pick with you guys about a couple of things, though. To the doctor, one thing I want to say is that you guys had brought up, now I've been studying theology for about 40 years, not in colleges and things like that, but as a person who is interested in those type of things as a hobby. I happen to be a Jew, and I have read the New Testament many, many times. And one thing I'd like to say is that first of all, you say you're an agnostic. An agnostic is a person who doesn't say that they don't believe, but they're not actually they're not so sure what they believe, which means that you are admitting that there could be some truth in any of these texts, correct?
No, that's not how I define agnostic.
That's not how you define it. So are you an atheist where you don't believe it, where you simply are not so certain?
When I say I'm an agnostic, what I mean is I don't believe in the Christian God or the Jewish God. I don't think that God exists. Whether there's some kind of supernatural being in the universe that's beyond my power to understand, I simply don't know. And so by agnostic, I mean I don't know whether there's a superior being in the universe, but I certainly don't believe in the Christian God.
Okay, well, you don't believe in it, but that doesn't mean that there isn't even a slight possibility that there could be some truth in those texts, correct?
My belief in God has nothing to do directly with the text. Because
I'm saying you can't, unless you're an atheist, you can say personally, hey, I don't accept this, I don't really know what God is, or whatever type of thing. But anyway, the point that I wanted to make first of all was you guys had quoted something from the book of John. And this has come up many, many times with anti-Semitic groups, neo-Nazis, skinheads, so on and so forth. The line, it does say in the book of John about Jews being the children of the devil. But you guys take that one line out of text because anybody who's read the entire book knows that that's rectified, that a point is simply being made there, that if somebody is against something, they're not for it. It also, I mean, we know in the book.
Well, then, Kenny, let's give a chance to let's give Bart a chance to respond to that, because I think you're hitting on something, but I don't know that you're hitting it in the right way. Go ahead, Bart.
Well, I wish that it were rectified somewhere else in the Gospel of John, but I don't know of any place where the Jews are treated favorably in the Gospel of John. The Jews are said to be the ones responsible for killing Jesus in the Gospel of John.
Yes, but the thing is that it also says, if you read the entire book, which I urge people to do, and let's also take into consideration the book of Romans, where it says to the Jew first, or it doesn't matter if a person's a Hebrew or a free or a slave or anything else, that it's all the same as far as God's concerned. It doesn't.
Well, wait, but stop right there. I think you bring up another interesting, inadvertently, Kenny, you bring up another interesting contradiction in the Bible. Let's talk about that, the idea of neither Greek, neither slave nor free, nor woman, no man. That too gets kind of contradicted a little bit later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other point is that, I think what you're pointing out is that, in fact, the Apostle Paul doesn't have the same view of Jews that the Gospel of John has. This is another case where different authors have different views, and I completely agree. You have to read the entire Gospel of John. So I agree with that. But, with this passage about there's neither Jew nor Greek, it also says there's neither male nor female. So this passage in Paul, and it's in Galatians, seems to suggest that, in fact, men and women are equal, whereas other passages in the New Testament suggest that women are inferior to men, and so this is